Welcome to our YouTube channel, The Alien Tales, and please ensure that you have subscribed.
The exchange student from Kepler 442b taught me more than any Earth university could. She came to study human culture. I was her assigned guide. By graduation, we'd rewritten the textbooks on interspecies understanding. Professor Hendricks adjusted her glasses nervously as she addressed our advanced xenobiology seminar. Class, I'd like you to meet Zorielle Quinthval, our first exchange student from Kepler 442b. I expected some exotic alien creature. Instead, a perfectly normal-looking girl with auburn curls stepped forward, except for her eyes. They swirled like miniature galaxies, shifting from deep purple to silver. Greetings, carbon-based life forms. Zorielle announced in a voice that sounded like wind chimes having an argument. I am prepared to absorb your cultural emanations through standard osmotic procedures. The class erupted in snickers. My roommate Jake whispered, "Did she just call us carbon-based? What's she made of? Titanium?" Professor Hendricks cleared her throat. Zorielle will be studying human customs and social interactions. Each of you will take turns as her cultural guide. Her eyes landed on me. Finnegan Murphy, you're first. Zorielle's galactic gaze fixed on me with unsettling intensity. Finnegan Murphy, she repeated, her pronunciation making my name sound like an ancient incantation. Your biological signature suggests elevated stress hormones and curiosity pheromones? Heat crept up my neck. I don't have curiosity pheromones. All humans emit curiosity pheromones. Also fear pheromones. And what you call awkward teenage boy pheromones, though you appear to be 22 Earth years. The class dissolved into laughter. I wanted to disappear into my chair, but Zorielle tilted her head with genuine confusion. Did I commit a social error? On Kepler 442b, accurate biological observations are considered complimentary. Professor Hendricks stepped in. Perhaps we should start with basic Earth customs, Zorielle. Finnegan, please show her around campus this afternoon. As the bell rang, Zorielle approached my desk. Finnegan Murphy, I am excited to study your species' mating rituals. I choked on my own saliva. This was going to be interesting. The campus dining hall buzzed with typical Tuesday chaos. Students juggling trays, gossip flying faster than food, and the eternal mystery of what exactly constituted Salisbury steak. Zorielle stood frozen at the entrance, her eyes cycling through color spectrums I didn't know existed. Finnegan Murphy, why do your people consume sustenance in such aggressive formations? It's called lunch, I said patiently. Come on, I'll show you how it works. She followed me to the salad bar, where she spent 10 minutes analyzing a cherry tomato with scientific fascination. Remarkable. Your planet's vegetation achieves perfect spherical symmetry while maintaining optimal moisture content. It's just a tomato, Zorielle. Just a tomato? She looked genuinely offended. On Kepler 442b, spherical food items are reserved for royal banquets. Other students began staring as Zorielle performed what appeared to be a blessing ritual over the lettuce. She whispered something in her native language that sounded like a symphony played backwards. What are you doing? Thanking the vegetable spirits for their sacrifice. It's only polite. I grabbed 2 sandwiches and steered her toward a table. Earth food doesn't have spirits. How do you know? Have you asked them? Before I could answer, she bit into her sandwich and her eyes exploded into brilliant gold. She made a sound somewhere between a purr and a piccolo solo. Zorielle? You okay? Finnegan Murphy? She breathed. What sorcery is this? Peanut butter and jelly? She grabbed my arm with surprising strength. This peanut butter and jelly contains more complex flavor matrices than our finest delicacies. How do humans function with such overwhelming sensory input? Half the dining hall was now watching us. I tried to look casual as a girl with galaxies for eyes experienced what appeared to be a religious awakening over a PB&J. Maybe we should eat outside, I suggested, but Zorielle was already standing on her chair, addressing the room. Fellow beings, you must treasure these flavor miracles. Your food contains actual magic. This was definitely not going according to plan. Explain to me again why humans voluntarily run in circles while wearing minimal clothing? I paused my morning jog as Zorielle materialized beside me. literally materialized, like she'd stepped out of thin air. Her Kepler 442b physiology apparently included some impressive abilities she'd forgotten to mention. "It's called exercise," I panted. "We do it to stay healthy, but you have perfectly functional transportation devices. Your cars and buses and bicycles." She kept pace effortlessly despite wearing what looked like formal robes. "Why create artificial physical challenges?" "Because..." I stopped to catch my breath. "Because we like being fit?" Fascinating. On my planet, we evolved past the need for inefficient locomotion cycles. We simply photosynthesize during our rest periods and absorb nutrients from cosmic radiation. "You eat sunlight?" "Among other stellar emissions, yes." She looked puzzled by my amazement. "Do humans not consume light energy?" "We get vitamin D from sunshine, but we can't live off it." We'd reached the campus athletic fields where the football team was practicing. Zorielle stopped dead, her eyes shifting to deep red. "Finnegan Murphy," she whispered urgently. "Why are those males engaging in territorial combat rituals? Should we alert the peacekeeping forces?" "It's just football practice. They're wearing battle armor and charging at each other with primitive weapons." "Those aren't weapons there." I watched as Jake caught a pass and got tackled by 3 guys. "Okay, I can see how that looks violent." Zorielle pulled out what looked like a crystalline phone. "I must document this aggressive behavior for my cultural studies." "Do the females also participate in these dominance displays?" "Sometimes. There's women's rugby, soccer, basketball, multiple combat sports." "Finnegan Murphy, how has your species survived this long?" Before I could explain that sports weren't actually warfare, Coach Peterson's whistle shrieked across the field. Zorielle shrieked back in what sounded like the same frequency. The entire football team stopped and stared at us. "Did she just communicate with the whistle?" Jake called out. This campus tour was getting more complicated by the minute. "Your information storage system is barbaric." I looked up from my anthropology textbook to find Zorielle standing over me, radiating disapproval. We'd been in the library for exactly 12 minutes, and she'd already managed to scandalize the librarian by trying to commune with the card catalog computer. "It's called a library, Zorielle. People have used books for thousands of years. But why trap knowledge in these dead tree fragments when you could store everything in crystalline matrices?" She picked up my textbook like it might bite her. "This primitive storage medium contains maybe 300 pages of data. On Kepler 442b, we compress entire civilizations' worth of information into pocket-sized neural crystals." "Well, we don't have neural crystals." "Clearly." She opened the book and gasped. "Finnegan Murphy, these symbols, they're not even three-dimensional. How do you absorb the emotional resonance of the information without proper dimensional depth?" Several students shushed us from nearby tables. Zorielle shushed back, somehow making the sound musical. "Just try reading it normally," I whispered. She stared at the page with intense concentration. Her eyes began cycling through colors so rapidly they looked like strobe lights. Students started migrating away from our table. "I don't understand," she said finally. "The symbols remain static. How do I access the author's neural pathways? Where are the sensory overlay channels?" "You use your imagination." "My imagination?" She looked genuinely confused. "But that would require creating subjective interpretations of objective data. How do you maintain informational integrity?" I realized I was trying to explain reading to someone whose species apparently downloaded knowledge directly into their brains. "Look, just focus on the words and let them create pictures in your mind." Zorielle stared at the page again. Suddenly, her eyes went completely white. "Zorielle," she started glowing. Actually glowing, with soft blue light radiating from her skin. "Zorielle." The entire library was staring now as my alien exchange student began levitating 3 inches above her chair. "I think," she said in a voice like distant thunder, "I'm beginning to understand your imagination." The fire alarm started going off. "This liquid contains psychoactive compounds," Zorielle announced, holding her cup like it contained nuclear waste. "Are you attempting to poison me, Finnegan Murphy?" The campus cafe buzzed around us, but I felt like everyone was listening to our conversation. After the library incident, which apparently triggered some kind of electromagnetic pulse that knocked out half the campus Wi-Fi. Professor Hendricks had suggested I introduce Zorielle to normal human social activities. Coffee seemed safe. I was wrong. It's just caffeine, I said. Humans drink coffee to wake up, socialize, study. You require chemical stimulants to achieve consciousness? Her eyes swirled with what I was learning meant intense curiosity. How inefficient. On Kepler 442b, we simply adjust our neural frequencies to match optimal alertness patterns. Of course you do. I took a sip of my latte. Just try it. It tastes good. Zorielle examined the foam art, a leaf pattern the barista had made. Your beverage contains decorative vegetation? It's just milk foam shaped like a leaf. You destroy plant matter for aesthetic purposes in your consumption rituals? Zorielle, it's not. I stopped. Through her eyes, I was starting to see how weird human customs actually were. Just taste it. She took the tiniest sip and her expression transformed into pure bliss. The coffee cup began glowing in her hands. Finnegan Murphy, she breathed. This is extraordinary. The molecular complexity, the temperature variations, the way it interacts with taste receptors. It's like a symphony for the digestive system. It's just coffee, just coffee. She stood up abruptly, addressing the entire cafe. Fellow beings, do you realize you're consuming liquid inspiration? This coffee enhances neural connectivity by approximately 37%, while simultaneously providing spiritual comfort. Every conversation in the cafe stopped. The barista dropped her towel. Zorielle, sit down. But she was already approaching other tables, trying to explain the miraculous properties of Earth's sacred bean elixir to increasingly confused students. A guy in a baseball cap looked at me helplessly. Dude, is your girlfriend okay? Girlfriend? My face burned as I chased after my glowing alien exchange student. Finnegan Murphy. I must confess something that may alter our relationship dynamic. We were sitting on the campus quad under an ancient oak tree, sharing what had become our daily post-disaster debriefing session. After 3 weeks of Zorielle turning routine activities into campus-wide incidents, I'd learned to find quiet spaces for our conversations. Let me guess, I said. You're actually the crown princess of Kepler 442b, and you're here to evaluate Earth for potential invasion? Her laugh sounded like silver bells being played by the wind. Nothing so dramatic. Though I am curious, why do you assume I'm royalty? Because you approach everything like you've never seen it before, but you're also incredibly smart and confident. Plus, you mentioned that spherical food thing being for royal banquets. Zorielle's eyes shifted to deep purple. Her equivalent of blushing, I'd learned. Your observational skills are remarkably acute for someone who claims to emit awkward teenage boy pheromones. I'm 22. Yes, you've mentioned that. Multiple times. She pulled a crystalline device from her robes, something that looked like a smartphone made of starlight. Finnegan Murphy, what I must tell you is this. I'm not exactly a typical exchange student. My stomach dropped. What do you mean? I'm here as an advanced cultural analyst. My species is considering formal diplomatic contact with Earth, but we needed to understand human behavior patterns first. She met my eyes. I volunteered because I was curious about your kind. So you're like a spy? More like an anthropologist. But Finnegan Murphy, something unexpected has occurred during my research. What? She reached over and touched my hand. Her skin felt like warm starlight. I've discovered that human emotions are far more complex than our scientists predicted. Particularly the emotional state you call affection. My heart started racing. Affection? I believe I'm experiencing what your species would classify as romantic attachment. To you, the world tilted sideways. An alien from another planet was telling me she had feelings for me, and all I could think was how her eyes looked like tiny galaxies when she was nervous. Zorielle, there's more. Finnegan Murphy. Something wonderful and terrible. The terrible part, Zorielle continued, her hand still touching mine, is that I've been lying to you about something crucial. The autumn breeze rustled through the oak leaves above us. Students walked by on distant paths, but our little corner of the quad felt isolated from the rest of the universe. What kind of lying? I asked, though I wasn't sure I wanted to know. Zorielle's eyes cycled through nervous colors, purple to silver to deep blue. Remember when I said my species evolved past the need for inefficient biological processes? Yeah, the photosynthesis thing. That was partially accurate. We did evolve past many limitations, but not all. She looked down at our joined hands. Finnegan Murphy, my people experience something called resonance bonding when we encounter compatible consciousness patterns. Resonance bonding? It's similar to what humans call falling in love, but it's permanent. Once the bond forms, we become neurologically connected to that individual across any distance. Her voice grew soft. And it's happening to me. With you, I felt like someone had just told me gravity was optional. What does that mean exactly? It means that when I return to Kepler 442b, I'll still feel your emotions. Your joys, your sorrows, your fears. They'll echo in my consciousness forever. And you'll feel mine. I tried to process this information. That's actually kind of beautiful. No, Finnegan Murphy, it's not. Tears that looked like liquid starlight began forming in her eyes. Because there's a 93% probability that the neural feedback will kill you within 6 Earth months. The world stopped. Kill me? Human brains aren't designed to handle interstellar consciousness bridging. The sensory overflow typically causes complete neural collapse. She squeezed my hand tighter. I should leave Earth immediately, before the bond fully establishes. It's the only way to protect you. Wait. I turned to face her completely. What's the 7%? What? You said 93% probability it would kill me. What happens in the other 7%? Zorielle's eyes went completely still. No swirling colors, just deep, steady purple. In the other 7%, you survive the transformation and become something entirely new. Something between human and Kepler 442b consciousness. And we'd be connected forever? Forever. I should have been terrified. Instead, I felt oddly calm. Zorielle, yes, I think I love you too. Professor Hendrick's office had never felt smaller. Zorielle sat rigidly in the chair beside me while our professor paced behind her desk, occasionally muttering things like, unprecedented, and completely outside established protocols. Let me understand this correctly, Professor Hendrick said finally. Zorielle, your species sent you here to study human behavior, but you've instead formed what amounts to a psychic connection with one of my students? The resonance bonding was unintentional, Zorielle replied stiffly. My supervisors on Kepler 442b are displeased. I imagine they are. Professor Hendricks looked at me. And Finnegan, you understand the risks involved? 93% chance of death, 7% chance of becoming something new. I shrugged, trying to look more confident than I felt. I've had worse odds on organic chemistry exams. This isn't a joke. I know it's not. I reached for Zorielle's hand. The moment our skin touched, I felt a warm, tingling sensation spread up my arm. But Professor, I can already feel it starting. The connection. It's not scary. It's amazing. Zorielle's eyes brightened to gold. You can sense my emotions? Right now you're nervous, but also hopeful. And you're hungry, specifically for peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Professor Hendricks sank into her chair. This is unprecedented in interspecies contact protocols. There's more, Zorielle said quietly. My people have issued an ultimatum. Either I return to Kepler 442b immediately and undergo neural reconditioning to sever the bond, or what? Or they'll classify Earth as a contaminated research site and prohibit all future contact. The weight of her words hit me like a freight train. You mean if you stay with me, your entire species will cut off contact with humanity? Essentially, yes. Professor Hendricks leaned forward. Zorielle, what exactly would neural reconditioning involve? Complete memory erasure of my time on Earth. I would retain learned cultural data but lose all personal experiences. All emotions connected to. She looked at me. I would forget Finnegan Murphy entirely. The room fell silent except for the ticking of the wall clock. So our choices are, I said slowly, let you forget me completely, or doom Earth to galactic isolation? Those appear to be the options, yes. I stood up, decision crystallizing in my mind. Then we find a third option. This is either brilliant or insane, Jake said. studying the papers spread across our dorm room floor. Probably insane. Zorielle sat cross-legged beside him, her eyes cycling through thoughtful colors as she examined our hastily drawn diagrams and calculations. Your mathematics are surprisingly sophisticated for a primitive species. Thanks, I said. I think we'd been working for 3 days straight, ever since I'd announced my intention to find an alternative to Zorielle's ultimatum. The plan was admittedly ambitious. If her people were worried about cultural contamination, we'd prove that the bond between us was actually beneficial for interspecies understanding. The cultural exchange data you've collected, I said to Zorielle. How comprehensive is it? Extremely. I've documented everything from your food rituals to your recreational combat sports to your bizarre information storage systems. She gestured to several crystalline devices. My reports have already revolutionized my people's understanding of human psychology. And the resonance bond, it's made you understand humans better? Exponentially. Through our connection, I don't just observe human behavior, I experience human emotion directly. The depth of feeling your species possesses is remarkable. Jake looked up from his laptop. So basically, you're saying the neural connection makes you a better researcher? In essence, yes. Then that's our argument, I said. We propose a formal study. Instead of neural reconditioning, Zorielle stays on Earth as humanity's first official interspecies cultural ambassador. The bond between us becomes a research tool, not a contamination. Zorielle's eyes went bright white, her equivalent of excitement. Finnegan Murphy, that's actually logical. My supervisors value scientific advancement above all else. There's just one problem, Jake said. How do we convince an entire alien civilization to trust a college sophomore with their diplomatic relations? Before I could answer, Zorielle's crystalline communication device began chiming with an urgent, melodic alarm. What's that? Her face went pale. It's a priority transmission from the High Council of Kepler 442b. She looked at me with fear in her galactic eyes. They've made their decision early. The device projected a hologram of what appeared to be several tall, ethereal beings with eyes like Zorielle's but somehow more intense, more ancient. They were speaking in her native language, but I didn't need translation to understand their tone. They were not happy. The High Council's decision was worse than we'd expected. Immediate extraction. A transport vessel was already en route to Earth, arriving within 48 hours. Zorielle would be taken back to Kepler 442b for neural reconditioning, and Earth would be classified as a failed research site, permanently off-limits for future contact. Unless, Zorielle said, her voice barely a whisper as the hologram faded, we can provide irrefutable proof that the resonance bond serves a greater scientific purpose. 48 hours, I said. That's not enough time to. Yes, it is. Zorielle stood up, her eyes blazing with determination. Finnegan Murphy, how quickly can you organize a campus-wide demonstration? What kind of demonstration? We're going to prove that human Kepler consciousness bridging doesn't just create individual bonds. It creates unprecedented cultural understanding. We're going to show my people what interspecies cooperation actually looks like. The next day and a half passed in a blur of frantic preparation. Word spread across campus about the alien farewell party. We couldn't exactly advertise the truth. And by evening, half the student body had gathered on the main quad. As the sun set, Zorielle and I stood before the crowd, hands joined. I could feel her nervousness mixing with my own excitement through our growing connection. Ready? I asked. Ready. High above us, a craft that looked like a crystal cathedral began descending from the stars. The High Council had arrived. Zorielle raised our joined hands, and suddenly the connection between us exploded outward. Through our bond, every person in that crowd could feel what she felt. Wonder at human resilience, amazement at our capacity for joy, deep respect for our ability to love despite knowing we're mortal. And through me, she projected what I felt. Admiration for her courage, fascination with her world, and most importantly, the realization that love isn't just between individuals. It's between worlds, between species, between different ways of understanding existence. The crowd gasped as they experienced true interspecies empathy for the first time. When the crystal ship landed and the High Council emerged, they found something unprecedented. 1,000 humans and one Kepler 442b citizen sharing consciousness, creating art, music, and poetry that neither species could have imagined alone. Incredible, the lead council member said in perfect English, her ancient eyes wide with amazement. The cultural synthesis is extraordinary. Zorielle squeezed my hand. Honored counselors, I present Earth's first successful interspecies consciousness bridge. Not contamination, evolution. 6 months later, I became the first human to set foot on Kepler 442b as Earth's cultural ambassador. The neural transformation didn't kill me. It opened up new ways of thinking I never could have imagined. And Zorielle? She kept her promise to rewrite the textbooks on interspecies understanding. We wrote them together. Love, it turns out, really is universal. Even if the universe is bigger and stranger than we ever dreamed.